All right, good morning, and thank you for coming out this morning to our webinar. And I'm here this morning with Nick Novinger from Canadian Insurance Brokers, as well as myself from Jason Wachtel from Haycore Computer Solutions, here to talk about cybersecurity solutions, as well as cybersecurity insurance, and how they work hand in hand in the workplace, and how every company needs to be aware of what they need to do to protect their organization. So we'll get right to it. So good morning. Thank you for taking the time with me today, and Nick as well. I know all of you are very busy, and we will not take up too much of your time discussing IT issues, but it's important that you know that the number one focus needs to be taking care of your clients and your organizations, as you know, and that's what we're here to talk about. The main focus is going to be on how to protect your company from being victims of ransomware, malware, bank fraud, negative PR, data breaches, etc. Sorry about the background noise. Let it pass for a second. Number of things that we're going to cover today are, the security threats that are affecting businesses today, and the number one security threat, that is the shocking truth about bank fraud, why firewalls and antiviruses are useless against the new threats of today, and as well mobile phones and cloud applications are seriously jeopardizing organizations' security. So, as an example, with respect to the bank, the CDIC, which is the Canada Deposit Insurance Corp, does not protect your company against bank fraud. People think that if they get frauded, that the bank is just going to refund the money that's taken from the account. That is absolutely not true. The banks need to be notified immediately if a fraudulent transaction has occurred in order to stop the money, because once this money has left the bank, it's gone, and it becomes an insurance issue, which Nick can speak about as well. But we'll get into that in a little bit more detail shortly. And, the point of this really is, how to avoid being a sitting duck, really is what we call it. We all work so hard and so long and put a lot of time into our companies and making them what they are. And the last thing we want to do is be hit by ransomware, malware, and having a cyber attack. Having a cyber attack and all of our hard work gone to the acts of a cyber criminal. And because quite often businesses do not recover from such attacks. And if you do hang on till the end of this, we'll be giving away a bonus for you guys, a free dark web scan for your personal credentials and employee credentials. We normally charge $150 for this scan, and we're happy to give this to you for attending our webinar today, and we'll get into more detail about what that includes very shortly. A little bit about myself. My name is Jason Wachtel. I own Haycore Computer Solutions. I've been in the IT industry since 1999, and I have over 20 years experience in the cybersecurity and managed services in the IT industry. So I have quite a bit of experience, a lot to offer. We focus on the small business environments, anywhere from 10 to 150 seats, and we have been at it for quite some time. So I'd like to think that we're doing really good job. We have quite a number of happy customers, which I will share some information about with you right now. So real quick, Renee over at Nealon's Group, we've been working with them for 20 years. When we started working with them, they were 20 users. They are now 200 users. They're located up in Burlington. Family-owned business, grown with them over the past 20 years. we provide them with managed services and as well as cybersecurity solutions. This is a bit of a different situation. Multiple locations, David Rudnick over at Elite Camps, multiple locations, multiple staff all over the place running different programs for children, many cloud applications, and pretty complex environment as well. And again, working with them for about 12 years now. So I am going to just shut off my video and give you guys the full screen so you can see what the content is going forward. Again, if you have any questions, there is a chat. Feel free to drop them into the chat. We have Corey Brock from Haycore in the background, who's going to manage any questions that come in and post them up for either Nick or myself to address. So please feel free at any time to ask some questions. We will, once I'm done my presentation, I'll be handing it over to Nick, who can talk about cybersecurity insurance. So why are we doing this? And over the past several years, there have been significant increase in the sophistication, frequency, and severity of cybercrime, and significantly more with COVID-19 in the past few months. Absolute huge increase. Because we've all been watching these trends, we've been putting in place new technologies, protocols, services, and we've been bringing on a number of new technologies in-house as well to protect our clients. But I have to tell you, the things that we've had in place over the past 3 years are no longer effective. Cybercrime has changed that much. And the technology that they use to attack cloud accounts, attack offices, attack mobile devices, everything has changed so drastically that it is a forever changing platform. And if you're not on top of it, you fall behind and increase your chances of falling victim to cybercrime. So this is why we're talking to you today. It's a very real, very serious threat that's escalating. And we are urgently asking all of our contacts and clients to pay attention to this information. So, attacks are becoming more vicious and more frequent. For the first time in history, cybercrime is the most prevalent type of crime against businesses. There were almost 145 million new malware samples in 2019. As of April of 2020, we almost hit 40 million already. Global cybercrime damages are predicted to cost up to $6 trillion annually by 2021. If I were to ask, if this, the numbers up on the screen, but, what would the average cost of a cybercrime attack cost a small business today? And believe it or not, it's almost $80,000. Hard to believe, but if we put all the reasons together on the possible scenarios, you can understand why. You have to also deal with things like embarrassment, appearing stupid and irresponsible to your customer base, vendors, colleagues, etc. The cost of protecting employee data, buying credit card monitoring for your staff as an example, the reputation damage, loss of credibility in the marketplace. If your competition catches wind of a malware attack or a cyber attack that's potentially leaked private information of your clients, the damage is huge, and it takes years to recover if people recover. The loss of clients, potential lawsuits, individual lawsuits, legal fees to handle such breach, compliance issues. If you're not familiar with compliance and being a Canadian business in our PIPEDA Act, then you should be, and many people aren't, believe it or not. And a couple of years ago, the government changed that every single business is responsible to report a cyber attack, is responsible to follow certain guidelines. Every business. So it used to be professional services, accountants, lawyers, doctors, people with financial data and medical data, for example. It's not the case anymore. They are held to a higher standard, but every single business needs to be compliant and must report a breach, which is incredibly damaging. Replacement of corrupted data or locked data from ransomware, which is huge. It keeps us extremely busy. It's often why we come into, picking up new clients, because they've been hit and they were not properly protected and they found out the hard way. And then, of course, the real cost to your downtime and lost productivity. What does a day of downtime really cost in your business, right? So these are the things that we need to really take into account. A little slide about the evolution of crime. This is interesting if we picture it this way. In the old days, bank robbers used to go and rob a bank. It was woke up one day and they went out to one place and they robbed a bank. And they would buy a gun or a knife, hide out in a dark alley, and then, jump the one person coming out of the bank perhaps and take their money. Over time, for example, trains, locomotives came out and they thought, hey, we're going to go and rob a train and we're going to rob a couple hundred people at a time. And that was far more lucrative than hitting one person coming out of the bank. Well, today, with advancements in technology, things have changed increasingly, but the underlying motives haven't changed. Theft, fraud, blackmail, etc., still exist, and it is still the reason why these cyber criminals do what they do. Today, with the hugely increasing trend of storing financial and personal information on third-party cloud platforms, the new train, we'll call it, is the cloud. And that is, think about if a criminal wanted to rob 100,000 people at once, they couldn't do that in the old days. Today, all they need to do is hack into a single large platform, and they can use advanced technology to rob millions. We've seen it. We've all seen it. We've all heard about it on the news. So crime has changed. Cybercrime has evolved. It continues evolving every day. And we as solution providers stay on top of it. We must stay on top of it in order to provide our clients the best possible solutions that we can. We all remember LifeLabs just last year. 15 million people hacked. It's crazy, the damages that came out of that were huge. The lawsuits, huge, and the personal information that was taken, extremely embarrassing for the company, and more important, more so for the patients of LifeLabs, etc. This is an interesting one. PEI ransomware. This was 2 weeks ago. Okay, timing is perfect for our slideshow today. Prince Edward Island, the government of Prince Edward Island, had a ransomware attack. So malware that caused ransomware ran for 90 minutes on their servers. Personal information of residents were compromised, and over that 90 minutes, if we do the math, they are expecting that this ransomware attack that ran for 90 minutes is going to cost around $900,000 to the taxpayers. And if we look at it, that's $10,000 a minute. $10,000 a minute of downtime to resolve this issue. The costs are broken down into two main areas: cybersecurity protection and credit card monitoring. So the addition of new hardware, new software, firewalls, cloud protection, two-factor authentication, and then of course to repair the damage, credit card monitoring for all of the residents at no charge, etc. $900,000, and it ran for 90 minutes. Just imagine that. Other things that we hear about and see about all the time is people getting into blackmail, exposing your personal preferences and online dating history, etc., and then using it against you. It happened in Canada. We see it all the time. We always get emails saying, unless you pay this, we're going to send out information. It's very true. It happens every day. So what motivates a cyber criminal? Number one is money, of course. And, this is a business. The business doesn't have too much overhead, taxes, any rules to follow, etc. These are not people with conscience, we'll call it. And, they can, they just keep going. Anyone can easily buy tools and training and services committed to fraud and hacking systems, etc. When people steal personal information such as credit cards, iTunes accounts, physical credit cards, etc., this is what they can sell them for on average. And depending on what they can use them for, they can make anywhere from $2,500 to $50,000 per incident. Even an amateur cyber criminal can expect to pull in approximately $80,000 per month stealing and selling data. That's huge money, and they are extremely motivated to do so. So a few facts about cyber criminals and how they operate. For them, it's a pretty easy business to set up and run with little to no overhead, as we mentioned. There are hundreds of websites and underground operations, we can call it, that allow them to operate and to assist them and to direct them and train them on how to be excellent criminals and to keep them up on their side, just like we need to keep up on protecting ourselves from those type of actions. They have the same type of support in their world to become the best hackers that they can. And don't think that a cyber criminal is sitting there typing away on trying to hack your password. It doesn't work that way. These type of malware runs on autopilot using artificial intelligence, which we call bots, that are programs that run on these massive computers, and they just hammer. It's called brute force. They hammer different accounts, physical office locations, firewalls, anything that they're directing at, and thousands of times per minute with many different types of variables of passwords, and that's how they get in. So the damage is incredible. Internet of Things is everything is connected. If they can get into one site, it is often means that they can bounce over and get into other sites. And if you think that that we are just going to pick up the phone and call for help, the RCMP, which is the main organization here in Canada that helps protect us and is challenged with these cases, is so overwhelmed that a case, an incident that would be massive to you is often very small for them. So we need to take measures so that things do not escalate to this level where we need to call in this type of help, because often the damage is done. And the dark web is something that I used to hear about when I was watching CSI many years ago, but I think it only existed on TV. But it's very real. It is very, very real. And what the dark web is doing is making it very nearly impossible to catch these cyber criminals, because they are operating there. They're buying and they're selling their credentials that they are, and it can't be tracked. So we're going to go into a little bit more detail here about the dark web. And what is it? It's a separate hidden part of the World Wide Web. It is concealed from conventional search engines, and that's where cyber criminals operate. They use it because they can operate there anonymously, as I mentioned. And it is estimated, if you can believe this, that the dark web is 550 times larger than the World Wide Web and still growing. The main thing that we hear, if we're going to hear any pushback or, when I go out to meet prospects, et cetera, or even clients to pitch them a new service because we strongly recommend it, is that, we're too small. Nobody would bother hacking us, right? Absolutely not. That couldn't be further from the truth. 1 in 5 small businesses fall victim to cybercrime, and that number is growing each year. Half of all cyber attacks are small businesses. We see so many attacks or attempts on small businesses, our clients, where our systems are holding their own, but we get reported to these incidents. That they're not directed. These bots that I had mentioned operate, and they scan thousands and thousands of IP addresses. And if they see a hole, they're going to try and get into it. And that's the way it works. They don't care who you are. They don't care how large or small you are, because no matter how small a company is, if they lock up their data and they hold their customer data or their financial data ransom, what's that worth to them, right? It's their livelihood, whether they're a 5-person operation, a 3-person operation, 300-person operation. It is their livelihood. It is everything. It is their personal private information. It is potentially their customers' personal and private information, medical information, accounting data, etc. So, as I mentioned in the first slide, we're going to talk about very, very briefly, talk about 3 large threats that your organization faces every day and how we can stop them. And as I said before, the number 1 threat to your business, I'm not sure if you will all believe this, but it is your employees. Absolutely. Even good employees make mistakes, whether they delete files, click on phishing emails, which we all know and see all the time, or completely innocently log into a compromised Facebook page or a link that they received from a friend or anything like that. Employees make mistakes. People make mistakes. And that is the most challenging part of staying protected in these days. They have to train and educate employees on how to react to certain types of situations, whether it's CEO fraud, whether it's a phishing email, and so on. We see them multiple times per week at several of our clients. Employees often use free and unsecured sharing applications, cloud applications for, to make their lives easier. For example, to get a free version of Dropbox or a free Gmail cloud account, and think that if they throw up their QuickBooks file up there, that they'd be able to open QuickBooks at home, for example, because it's now shared between the locations. Absolutely not. It is extremely unsecure. And, employees make these mistakes. They think it's harmless because it makes their lives simpler. And I don't blame them. I understand that. But it is not the case. There is a right and a wrong way to accomplish these tasks. And another major thing, especially with COVID these days, with everyone in the remote workplace at home, a lot of people are pulling out their personal machines and devices, personal computers, laptops, etc., and logging into the office or logging into their corporate cloud accounts, and their personal computers are not protected. They either have malware or they're just susceptible, and now they can introduce vulnerabilities, etc., to the office, and the organization can be taken down. Just last week, we had the situation where somebody's personal account was compromised while they were working, and the contact list from the person's mail client was taken and then used against them several days later. And I can talk about that. Number 2, malware ransomware. We've all heard of this. This is the type of, these are the types of things that keep you up at night. These are the things where customers will come to us, or people will come to us and they'll say, am I protected? I can't sleep. I need to know that we're protected from ransomware that they hear about on the news every day. And absolutely, hugely important for every organization, not only to be protected from ransomware and malware, to have their data stored off-site and have it checked for ransomware, even if it's going off-site. These are critical solutions. New malware threats are being released per day, 350,000 on average per day. Attacks rose almost 80% last year. And with COVID-19, the stats for 2020 are going to increase dramatically. And number 3, bank fraud. I talked about this earlier, and I'll just give you a very quick example. Is last week, as I mentioned, we had somebody's account, personal computer get compromised, their contact list was taken. They found out who the president of the company was, as well as who the finance person was, and they simulated an email using their own domain. So they went out and they created a domain, and they changed a G to a Q in the domain name. So in text, as you know, it's very hard to differentiate between a G and a Q, especially at a quick glance. They simulated an email from the owner to the finance person, where they then transferred a large amount of money in the thousands, what they thought was to a legitimate vendor. And it turned out that it wasn't. And thank God they were able to identify that and call the bank and stop it. And the only reason they were able to stop it is because it was within hours. If it was any longer, that money would have been gone. And if you don't have the proper insurance to help protect you from that, you're going to be out the money, and there's nothing you can do about it, because the banks are not there to protect you from this. So when you have a cyber attack, you fall victim of one, you will be blamed. There's no sympathy when you get hacked. You are simply labeled irresponsible, and it is 100% true. We see it all the time. People have been hacked, and they're losing clients. People don't trust them anymore, etc. You can be questioned, investigated. What did you do to try and prevent this? If you didn't do anything, it makes the situation even worse. You may need to notify clients that you've exposed their data to cyber criminals. Just imagine that. That's awful. These are the additional things, the fallout that happens when people get attacked. And, you could make the news depending on the company, depending on the situation. And as we talked about earlier, if your competitors catch wind of it, they could have a good time, at your expense. And then, of course, all the cost of restoring the data. So, what can you do about this? We've talked about the stats, we've talked about the dark web, talked about different cybersecurity threats of today in a very, very high level, but what can we do? There are definitely steps that every organization can take and should take to protect themselves, okay? Cybersecurity is based on having layers of security. We hope that if a cyber criminal attack, a cyber attack gets through one layer, that the next layer is going to protect them, okay? We need to have security on our email, security on our office premises, security on our cloud accounts, security on our mobile devices, security on our internet browsing, et cetera, et cetera. And if, we have to protect you at all these different angles. So 3 steps that you can take to protecting your organization. These are things that we can do, or you can do right away. Number 1, a threat assessment. You do a threat assessment at your office, and you discuss how your organization works, how your employees function on a day-to-day basis, and we identify where you might be exposed to risk. You create an action plan. So based on that threat assessment, we identify everything. We then create a plan, show you how we can get around it, how we can fix it, and then, of course, what it's going to take on an ongoing basis to maintain it, and where you set it and forget it, so to speak. We have the proper antivirus, the proper layers of security that I was talking about. These are critical steps to protecting your organization. And the good news is today, we are giving away a free threat assessment and dark web scan for your organization. That's about $1,000, just under $1,000 value. And what that includes is a proper network and security assessment, running specific tools where we'll come out to your environment. We will run these tools and provide you a report, as well as the dark web scan results. When you're done, you'll find out if your login credentials are being sold on the dark web. I can almost guarantee you that you're going to see your organization's credentials on the dark web. Remember, it doesn't have to be you that has been compromised for your credentials to get on the dark web. If a vendor, if a site, if you have a LinkedIn account, for example, LinkedIn was breached in 2016. Every LinkedIn account at the time is on the dark web. If you have a Sobeys or a Loblaws account and they were breached, your credentials could be on the dark web. So it doesn't have to be you that's compromised. Remember that. So it's not like you can say, oh, I was never compromised. That's fine. And most of us haven't been directly. It's where else is our information and have they been compromised? We will find out if your IT systems are truly secured from hackers. And we'll tell you about how many old employee information is still on your information, on your servers, if you have servers, rogue accounts that haven't been disabled after people have left, etc. At the end, we'll give you an overall health score. The health score will be made up of your network and security rating combined. And we'll tell you what we need to do about it. And finally, backups. Backups are everything. If you fall victim to ransomware, malware, and privacy and data is not at risk for being exposed, but your data is locked, for example, and we have proper ransomware detection systems, we can get you back. We can restore that information by having reliable ransomware and backup disaster recovery solutions in place. So, 100%, it is absolutely critical. We will evaluate that at the same time. As I mentioned, we're going to give you a dark web scan report. We're also going to give you for free how to create, it's a guide on how to create, manage, and remember hacker-proof passwords. Also going to give you 7 things that you can do to protect yourself from bank fraud. And here's a few things that you need to know. There's absolutely no obligation to buy or do anything when you request this risk assessment. We will give it to you, we'll complete it and give it to you, no pressure whatsoever, okay? We can only accept 15 people up until the end of July, just due to the amount of time required. And what that means is someone needs to come out to your office and we need to spend some time with you, understand the type of business you're operating, how you function with your technology, and then conduct the scans. So 15 is already tight, so I'm capping it at 15, okay? And this is by application only. I wanna make sure that we can help you, and you'll see shortly on how you can get in touch with us, right here. So if you wanna snap a shot of this, we will also be sending you out information on how you can get in touch with us following this meeting. And don't think that this is something you can put off. Cyber crime is real, and too many people put it off. They get burned, and then they have to start implementing these solutions after they've done all their damage control. Okay, so again, if you like, please send us a request, and we'd be happy to schedule that with you. Corey, any questions right now?
Nothing on the chat right now, but if anybody has any questions, please feel free, and I'll be able to address it to Jason.
Perfect. What I'm going to do is pass things off to Nick Novinger from Canadian Insurance Brokers. And, if you want to, this slide will be up again as well. And Nick will be able to educate you right now on cyber insurance. So we'll be back in touch shortly. Nick, I'm going to stop sharing and hand it over to you.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Jason. That was a really good presentation. I know I got a lot of takeaways from that one myself. Cyber insurance, cybersecurity, it's an ever-changing topic of discussion. So hopefully, the audience members also have a lot of takeaways from that. For those that don't know, obviously, my name is Nick Novinger. I work with Canadian Insurance Brokers. I've been in the industry for coming on about 20 years now. I'm not trying to say an expert in cyber. I've got experience with it. And the goal of this presentation is to give you guys a better understanding of what cyber insurance is, how it's a complementary product to the cybersecurity measures you guys as business owners have in place for your companies, and at the same time educate you to allow you to self-assess your company. Same kind of thing that Jason suggested, in that self-assessment prior to buying anything is obviously a preferred method throughout the process. Jason, I'm still waiting for you there we go. Okay, so let me just share with you the presentation and we can get started. To answer your guys' questions, which I'm sure is on the top of everybody's mind, I am wearing pants today, so this is good. Let's move this out the way. Okay, cyber threats. Make sure you're prepared. What we're going to touch on today, a couple of things. Fun facts. We've got a couple of good stats here. Jason spoke to a couple of these before, but these are real eye-openers I found when I was doing my research years ago on this topic, diving into, okay, what are the stats of claims, stats of attacks? It's really interesting stuff. Sorry, that skipped very fast. What are we going to do next? We're going to go to leading causes of claim, what we see as the most consistent causes of claims in the insurance industry. Claim scenarios. This is going to help you guys relate to them. Different sort of industry sectors, circumstances that gave rise to a claim, what those scenarios were. Then we're going to touch on, what does cyber insurance cover? What is it? A lot of people don't truly understand cyber insurance. They understand cyber security, but not necessarily cyber insurance. So we're going to hopefully answer a lot of the questions you guys may have on that topic. And then obviously, how do you buy it? Can you go yourself and purchase it? Do you have to go through a broker? We'll touch on that as well, and also leave time for any questions you guys may have. So let's get into this. Cyber breaches. Jason spoke to this point earlier. In 1 in 5 small businesses get faced with a cyber breach. Now, 1 in 3 businesses and 1 of 4 charities suffered a cyber breach in 2019. That's a huge number, guys. We're talking about businesses. Doesn't matter what size, okay? 1 of 3 businesses were hit, and 1 of 4 charities were hit with a cyber breach. All right, and just like to Jason's point too, he mentioned this earlier, that number just keeps getting bigger and bigger. This was 2019. We're already halfway through 2020. When those stats come out, it's going to be pretty eye-opening, I think. In terms of the actual size of businesses targeted by these hackers, by these bots, we're looking at about 61% were to large and mid-sized businesses. So the brunt of the business, I guess, economic engine was attacked at a 61% rate. What's the average cost per breach? So not total cost of a breach, the initial cost per breach. All right, in 2017 was $3,000 per breach. So just one little breach in your wall cost $3 grand. That number is now up to $5,000 year to date. Okay, again, that's not the total cost per claim that we're going to dive into later. That's just the cost per initial breach. Now, what's the cause of these breaches? Jason, again, spoke to this earlier. We talk about employees. Now, it's not practical to think every employee of every business company has a high level of technical knowledge when it comes to IT services, security services. So unfortunately, 48% of companies, with that being said, lack or their employees lack that knowledge to manage their own cyber needs and understand a risk, understand a suspicious email, understand a suspicious link. So that's something that we can work on as business owners, as well as just in terms of the overall onboarding of staff to make sure they have somewhat level of technical knowledge. Now, again, in these days and age, we're so dependent on technical and computers and just everything in general. A lot of the staff coming on board nowadays do have a greater level of knowledge than previous employees. So that's always something that's a good thing. Number of breaches. Okay, so the number of breaches reported in 2019, 8.4 million. It's 23,000 attacks per day. Okay, and like Jason mentioned before, this is not, one hacker going at your system. These are all bot-driven attacks that can go on and on and on. They don't work 9 to 5. It's a 24/7 thing. 23,000 attacks per day. All right. The sad part about this whole thing is that less than 5%, less than 5% of companies carry cyber insurance. We're going to get into why cyber insurance is so important, why it's complementary to the actual services and IT solutions you guys have in force now, and what happens when those get compromised. What are the leading causes of claims that we see in the insurance industry? And it's not in this order, but these are the 4 leading causes. We've got ransomware that gives results to a claim, phishing scams, rogue employees is up there, and Jason also mentioned this one before, employee errors, okay? And I'd have to agree. I wanted to sort of speak to it when Jason brought it up, but I figured I'll wait. Employee errors is probably, in my mind, the #1 issue that we see in the insurance industry. It takes that sort of user experience, that exchange, that somebody has to click on a link, somebody has to do something to activate a virus, activate a phishing scam, whatever it is. It takes 2 to tango, so to speak. Example of ransomware, okay? And this happens all the time, all the time. Insured system was breached following an employee clicking on a suspicious link in an email. I mean, you guys clicked on a link in an email just to register for this event. Well, obviously it wasn't suspicious, but at the same time, that's all it really takes. And they can mask the way these links look. I mean, they've got really, really good at hiding things. So in this case, a link was clicked, the company's system and server were encrypted, and a demand of $900,000 of Bitcoin followed from the hackers. So the company's systems were seized, okay? So there's two aspects to this scenario. We've got a demand for $900,000, and we've also got the individual company system being effectively suspended and frozen. Operations shut down, right? So business operations were shut down for over 6 months in this case, and the loss of income was substantial. So you have to look at it in multiple facets. There's layers to every scenario. It starts off with a certain thing and then ends up, it can end up catastrophic. And in this case, it was twofold. There was $900K of ransom requested, and then 6 months down of lost income, which can be detrimental, especially the times we're in now. Our economy is just getting back up and rolling. God forbid something happens. And hackers know this. They're aware of the timing. They're aware of current events. They're going to be attacking a lot of people. So just watch to see what happens. Second, phishing. Okay, an employee of an HR team had a pop-up on their computer. After clicking on the suspicious email, the pop-up stated their computer was infected and to call the number provided. This actually happened to somebody I know, not business related, their personal computer. This hacker, this con artist masked themselves as a Microsoft support staff. And what they did was popped up like this, a notification saying their system was compromised. Call a number. The individual called the number thinking no ill will there. So what these guys did was pop up the notepad in front of the screen. I'm sure you've seen this kind of thing before. And then they'll write to them while they're on the phone with them, masking what's going on behind the background. Got into their personal data, got into credit card information, all kinds of stuff. In this case, the computer was infected, called the number provided. The hackers then gained remote access to the company's system by further deceiving the employee over the phone. Happens quite a bit. Hopefully you guys haven't experienced anything like this, but these are the claims that we see the most of. Rogue employees. As unfortunate as it sounds, a lot of claims are derived from rogue employees, disgruntled employees. So in this case, an employee stole 700 clients' personal data records, including names and addresses. This information was then provided to the new employer for the benefit of both parties. So you see this quite often in sales and servicing. How do you get an advantage over your competition? A lot of sales reps, individuals shift firms, companies, what have you. They'll take certain information, maybe their portfolio with them. This is in this case the actual, I guess the employee was a little disgruntled and didn't just steal his existing book of business. He also posted all this information on the dark web. which Jason spoke to before, can be extremely detrimental to the optics, the reputation of a company. At the same time, very, very tough to track, tough to get to the bottom of. So something to think about for sure. Probably like we mentioned before, the number one scenario that we see in terms of claims is employee driven. So, and this happens all the time. Employees take their laptops home to do some work over the weekend. I do it myself, okay? I take my laptop with me almost everywhere I go. This one employee decided to go to the local coffee shop for a little shot of espresso, what have you, get some work done. You know, we've all been to Starbucks. You all see the Wi-Fi access. You just look to your left from the actual baristas and you'll see a bunch of people sitting there going through their work day to day. Through their laptop, whether it's an iPad, a phone, whatever it is, they're getting work done at these establishments. As soon as he left, he realized he forgot his laptop. He rushed back and then found out that it had been stolen. As a result of this stolen laptop, 120,000 personal data records of the company's clients, his employer's clients, were compromised. Again, what people can do with that information is almost endless, and Jason can speak to this too. All these guys need is really a name and an email, and they can just extract so much information. It's incredible. And on this scale of theft with these type of clients, I mean, businesses can be pretty much ruined. So what does cyber liability and cyber insurance cover you for? Well, it's two different things. We've got your first party liability, first party coverages, which a lot of people don't know about, and that's what we're going to dive into right now. And then again, your third party liability, your responsibility to your clients in the event they come back at you for any kind of breach you sustain. So let's talk about first party liability coverages. So you've got your data breach costs, notification costs. All right, so Jason spoke to this before. If you get hit with a breach, you, per the regulations, have to notify your clients that you sustained and your security systems were compromised. What are the costs associated with notifying your clients? If you're a company that has 50 million, 100 million, 5 million, 10 million, 3 million in sales, you probably have a decent size amount of clients you're doing business with. The cost to notify these guys can be substantial. Your digital assets, so damage to those digital assets, the cost to rebuild your infrastructure, rebuild those assets, network failure, the cost to get your network back up and running up until when it was prior to you receiving the breach, any kind of advancements you want to make within that network. The biggest takeaway from this in terms of first party coverage is the business interruption. Okay, we spoke to this before with respect to the Bitcoin. So two things, $900,000 worth of ransom, and then that shutdown of business for 6 months. What cyber covers you for is business interruption. That loss of income, if it's sustained via a data breach, will be indemnified to the policyholder. That's huge, guys. It's huge. You can just think about how far we've come technology-wise. How many companies are, if not 90%, automated these days? God forbid somebody gets a hold of your system and freezes it, holds it for ransom. You guys are shut down. We all experience it. We're so dependent on tech nowadays, and hackers know this. So this is a huge, huge factor, which is why I put that in block letters. Jason also spoke to this too. Some of the services we provide are outsourced these days. You know, data services, things like that, storage. A plethora of services these days are outsourced. What this coverage will provide is if one of those contingent companies that you depend on suffers a breach themselves, there's a trickle-down effect, okay, to your guys' income, your guys' sustainability, your guys' operational capacity. This insurance will pick up that loss, that damage. And then obviously cyber extortion and ransom. So we'll pay ransoms, we'll pay the cost of extortion. It's huge, because that's where these guys really try to get at you as a business owner and try to get the money from you. And the insurance will pay for those losses, that loss of income, and will pay ransom, okay? Third party liability losses, privacy and confidentiality liability. Everything is per the regulations. All right, so this covers anything and everything from a third party. If you get any kind of suits brought against you from your clients, third parties, this will pick it up. Obviously up and to the policy limits you decide to purchase, okay? Network security liability, same thing. It's all per the regulations as stated. Now, the beautiful thing about the insurance is that it tracks the regulations as well. So if you purchase a policy 5 years ago and the regulations are a little different this year, next year there may be some additives to them, your policy will adapt to them. You never need to sort of like buy a new policy, get an endorsement, keep paying as the regulations get updated, follow forms. Big thing here too, payment card industry and PCI. So you have your data security standards and your payment card industry standards. The policy always abides by those two standards, which is huge. Anything less than that, you're not getting the proper coverage. Now, in my opinion, these are all fantastic things to have that you need to have as business owners, especially in the current time we're in, right? But the biggest thing to purchasing one of these policies is the things you get over and above, all right? The return on your investment really lies in the following, to be honest with you, the coverage highlights, okay? So think return on investment. What are you getting when you buy an insurance policy? You're getting what we talked about before. But over and above, you're getting, as I mentioned, the policy regulation tracking. The biggest thing you're getting with this is the crisis management services, all right? You're getting a 24/7 incident reporting call center. Like I said, hackers don't work, bots don't work 9 to 5. These things happen 24/7. It can be any time of night, any time of day, it doesn't matter, all right? All you need to do is pick up the phone and start the process. When you start that process, you're getting the fraud response, okay? So you're getting advice from their fraud team, how things occurred, what can we do? You're getting the forensic and legal services, which truly dive into the events that led to your breach, what they can do, what are you legally obligated to do. It's really just having a lawyer on call 24/7 along with a forensic team. Think of it as a digital Crime Stoppers, right? And really all you get to do is make one phone call. That's it. You make one phone call and they take it from there. It's pretty attractive in that just itself, okay? Now, how do I buy cyber insurance? Give me a call. You call me on my phone. That's my direct line. I pick it up 24/7. Girlfriend hates me. She can't stand it, okay? But I'm here for you guys. I pick it up all the time. Visit my website, novinsurinsurance.com. If you don't have time to talk to me, we also offer a free digital solution, completely digital, take you less than 5 minutes. We can handle companies up to 50 million in revenue. You can click that link, you can take a snapshot of it. It takes you through a 6-step process. And like I said, companies up to 50 million in revenue can get an instant quote digitally, options to pay monthly, options to pay annual, all that kind of good stuff. I hope that you do call me. We want you guys to give us a call. We want to help you guys and educate you guys in the actual exposures that are there and tailor make something to best suit you guys. I'm going to open this thing back up to Jason, and then we'll be able to take any kind of questions you guys may have. Hopefully you got some questions. We're here to answer them. We're here to sort of really try to help the whole buying process for you guys. And without any further ado, Jason, it's back over to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Nick. That was very informative. I took away quite a bit of information there. In fact, I'm going to, I know a few people I want to send your way on my side of things, my client base. So I will definitely be doing that. Corey, anyone posting any questions at this point?
I got Maurice, who actually asked me personally if he would like the slides. Actually, he found the slides very informative and helpful.
Awesome. No problem at all. Well, if there's no further questions, everyone has our contact information, or I hope you do. We will definitely get you guys back, get in touch with you and have some more information available to you and give you the options and the contact information once again to get a hold of us. If you or any of your colleagues have questions, or you feel this would be of interest to others, please send them our way. And thank you everyone for attending. Won't take up any more of your time. Appreciate it very much. Thanks, Nick. Thanks, Corey.
Absolutely. Thank you everybody for attending. And Jason, thank you. Always a pleasure to work with you. And guys, like I said, don't be shy. Ask questions, send us an email, pick up the phone. We're here to help you guys out. And there's always a solution for every problem. So contact myself and Jason, and we'll get the process started with you guys.
Thanks, everyone.